Hey, welcome to the CalmWithDom podcast, where I teach you how to harness your highly sensitive nature to strengthen your relationships and overcome your energy leaks as a highly sensitive woman. My name is Dominic, and I am your spiritual emotional intelligence coach. Today, we're getting into it a little bit different than normal. For those of you who are longtime listeners of the show, you might have noticed a couple of differences about today's episode. Like, number one, it's not a quick 20-minute episode. Number two, I'm not alone. I'm not on my own talking to you. And number three, it's an hour long, juicy, impactful, insightful conversation that I can't wait to share with you. So, this conversation was had with a colleague of mine. I think I can say that, which is really cool. And just a very admirable woman who is showing up and serving others in such an impactful way that I think is super important. And this person is Ashley Hutt. Now, in my conversation with Ashley, we get into the topic of shadow work, how to approach our own healing, and specifically approach our own inner child wounds, as well as some misconceptions around healing and what it's supposed to look like versus what it actually is. And I can't wait for you to meet Ashley and hear her wisdom and absorb it and let it resonate where it needs to in your life, in your body. I definitely had moments where her words deeply resonated with me, and you'll know it. I was practically fangirling over her the whole time. Please enjoy the conversation that you listen to today. Definitely share it if you feel that it would help and to resonate with others. And of course, get your hands on Ashley's free resource linked in the show notes. You can, snag it as you listen. It's definitely a good one. And without further ado, here is today's episode. I am excited. I have a wonderful, beautiful, incredibly intelligent, super insightful, wise woman on the podcast today. Ashley Hutt is on the Calm with Dom podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm excited.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your beautiful words. I received them.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So for those who are not fans of you yet, because they will be after this is over, please Ashley introduce yourself to my listeners.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Dom, for having me on. I'm so happy to be here. So I'm Ashley Hutt. I am the brain engineer. So I combine my engineering skills of processes and systems and analytics and seeing the connections and how things work, combined with neuroscience and neuroplasticity and emotions and how our brain works, but also the subconscious mind and how our brain developed when we were young and how our lived experiences affect all of that, and how all of that then creates our life and our default behaviors and thought patterns and all of that kind of stuff. So I help women, mostly women, not opposed to working with men, but I help women work through the grief and the guilt that they feel in their life that keep them caged in and keep them stuck and keep them trapped in all areas of their life. To release that, to understand where it comes from, then release it, and then and embody what is true for them, and finding their unique voice and being and goals and values, and how all of these pieces play together to create a peaceful, whole, fulfilling, beautiful life full of courage and clarity and goodness.
I love it. I love it. That so many parts of that resonated within my body. I was like, yes, yes, this is this is it. This is the work, the important work, what everyone is worthy of
Yes.
doing for themselves and getting to that place of groundedness. And this is my truth. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's
it's,
so good.
it's not a finish line. Like that's not, it's definitely not a destination,
Thank
but
you for saying that.
there is kind of like a turnover point or like where you've gotten to at least you've got some practices in place, you have unlearned and healed and some pieces of it, and you it's really kind of like small wins, so that as you move forward in your life, you become just more aware and you have tools and stuff to put into place
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
adjust and respond to whatever stressors are happening. And yeah, because you're still human. We're still human.
Yeah.
Like, and the point of the work is to not become unhuman. Like
Right.
to
Oh my gosh.
embrace the
Yes.
humanity. It's to embrace being human and all of
I love
the
it.
beautiful experiences that we get to experience in this life.
100%. You're saying all the right things. My body's like, yes, give me more. And it's so true. It's so true. And this is definitely just you saying, we're still human. The point is not to become unhuman, right? And it's like, that's definitely the conversation I want to have with you because I am such a fan of shadow work. I'm such a
Yeah,
fan of shadow integration, right? And
yeah,
I always like my thing is like um the point of shadow work is not to find the truth and hate it. The point is to find the truth and integrate it. It's to
yeah,
learn the lesson and to get grounded in whatever that is. Right? Self-regulate if you need to,
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it's just so important in the work that I do as well as in the work that you do. And yeah, I feel like you're just the perfect person that I feel like
yeah,
a lot of highly sensitive women do need to hear from you and the perspective that you offer because it's something that I can't offer. And so every time you speak, every time you
yeah.
show up, it's like, yes, Ashley speaking. Yes, it's so good. I'm just, it's gonna be me fangirling this whole episode, so don't mind
Oh,
me.
I love it. I love it. And I love the I think about, my flavor of shadow work is inner children work, inner child work. And but I think a lot of people view it in the same way of it being like, oh, I don't know if that's something I want to do. I don't know, like I don't
Yes, exactly.
that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that the shadows are there, the inner children are there,
Yeah.
all of this stuff is there, whether you want to look at it or not. So it's like, do you want to, you know, carry around, whole suitcases full of stuff that you don't actually know what's in there, but you're toiling and like pulling and carrying the weight of it?
Oh yeah.
Or do you want to like sit down with it and look at some of it, and some of it, and it's all going to have pieces of personal wisdom for you and self-knowledge. Um, and some of it you're going to be like, I don't want that anymore. And then you can
Right.
like let it go. Like
Yeah.
literally, and like literally lighten your load. And only
Mm,
be carrying the things that you want to be carried, and maybe
yeah.
have room for some things that you do want but that you previously didn't have room for to carry. So
Oof,
it's
that's good.
the shadows, they're there.
100%. Yeah. It can't, you can't lighten the load if you don't take a look.
No.
It can't happen if you don't know.
Yep.
That's so good. So good. Ashley, I'm gonna quote you. I told you already that I was gonna quote you, but
Yes.
um, you're someone that actually needs to be quoted often. Just now, I'm like, I'm definitely quoting you just in this episode. I'll just have graphics of your words by Ashley Hutt because,
Yeah, I love that.
geez. So I just wanna bring this up that you told me just in our DMs. You said Ashley said, listeners, for everyone listening, Ashley Hutt said, we're born whole, not doubting ourselves, not questioning ourselves. And then the people around us expect things from us. They expect us to be a certain way, expect us to do certain things or not do certain things. And all of these things don't really matter in real life. That's what he said. I was like, thank you. There, you just can't say it any simpler and matter of fact than that. But I do want to lead with this quote because it's like when we're talking about the inner child work, this is where it stems from.
Thank you for that. Because I have, that was my very first experience of having my own words read back to me. So that was a very
Aren't they
new,
profound? They're
yeah.
profound.
Like I
Yeah.
had chills and I'm like, I'm giving myself chills right now. I've never in the,
Mm-hmm.
not my ego talking. It was more my like observing my human
No,
having a new
yeah.
experience. I've never experienced that before, right? So
Love it.
that was that was really interesting. Um, but my words are true. And my words are true. And what I said to you in that message is absolutely true. When a baby is born, it is full sensory being, doing whatever its little body needs at any given moment, you know,
Yeah.
and it has limited communication skills and um and there's zero guilt. There's zero shame. Like a 3-day-old baby that cries all night and keeps its parents up all night and they don't get any sleep. That baby feels zero guilt about that. You know,
Yes.
there's no
Yes.
feeling bad. There's no feeling like a burden. There's no, I'm wrong. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Although that happens pretty quickly, right?
Right. I
Because
mean,
the parents also have their limits too, they are also humans. So it's, and that's where it gets into the piece of like doing the shadow work and doing inner child work is not about finding someone to blame. It's not about, you know, finding, knowing that everything is your dad's fault and going back and like being like, you see, you did this, you did that, you did this to me. It's not about that, but it's about seeking to understand the things that are already inside of you, that are inside of you now. Usually we're adults when we go to do this work. So it's
right.
things that
Yeah.
pieces that you have experienced throughout your lived experience, starting with sometimes even before birth,
Mm.
because our nervous system is working
Yes.
when we're still in our mom's stomach. We are absorbing her chemicals as well. So it's kind of like what she's feeling and experiencing. There are links to that as well. Um, but it is, the purpose of this work is to expand our understanding of ourself and our tendencies and our patterns and our behaviors and these things that already exist, to understand where they're coming from, and then we are equipped with tools to release some of those things that we choose to. And because a lot of it is kind of like bad decisions. As a say there's a week a 2-week old, and the mom or the dad, whoever the caretakers are, they can't anymore. So they're taking a moment for themselves, and the baby is left to cry for, I mean, maybe even like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But that baby at that moment could be like, why is no one coming for me? Why
Yeah.
is no one coming for me? Why is no one coming for me? And they can already start to bring in some beliefs, and I call them bad decisions. It's just it. That's
Oh,
not a
no,
thing I
you're
might say,
blowing my
but
mind. With just the
but
term, you're blowing
it's
my mind.
like it's them trying to make sense of the situation, which we continue to do throughout our whole lives. We never have all of the information that there is. We have snippets, but our brain fills in the gaps and tries to make it make sense to us. So that happens even when we're babies. And if that happens over and over, or even just it can just be once. Anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but like our brain works to fill in the gaps to make it make sense. And it's basically creating a belief. It's planting a seed of like, this is how it is. There must be something wrong with me. My mom doesn't love me. There must be something wrong with me because, um, yeah. And then that can bloom and flourish into
Yeah.
every area of your life and be reinforced with so many other experiences that we all experience. We all
Yeah.
suffered from a mean girl or a bully or someone saying something mean or rejecting us or being dumped or I mean
Yeah.
any of the
No, yeah.
things. But
All the
each
things.
time we experience that, it aggravates that initial seed that was planted, and it like reinforces that. And it's when we can use continuing to use this example, we can I use hypnotherapy, so we can go back energetically in our imagination, in our mind's eye, and like identify that and then be like, that makes sense. I was a baby. I was a baby. I didn't know any better. I couldn't do anything else. I was just crying and crying because that's all I could do. But my parents, like, they they were checked out for whatever reason. So like that had nothing to do with me. That was them. That was them.
Yeah.
And then what my practice is to insert grown adult you into those situations, becoming that person that you needed, whether it was literally something that happened when you were a baby, or maybe you were 4, or maybe you were 6, or any of the ages, and bringing yourself into those situations and literally becoming the grown, loving adult presence that you needed then, because no one knows what you needed like you do. No one
Period.
knows what you needed in
Yeah.
those moments. No one knows the type of comfort that you needed. No one knows the type of words that you needed to be said to you. No one knows what you needed in any of those moments of your childhood like you do.
So many things you said resonated with me. I have like, I want to comment on so many things in that one response within your response. The first thing that came up for me was when you, the term bad decisions, it just blew my mind because I had never, what a, for me, it's a perfect way to describe it because whenever I speak on shadow work, it's always when I use like real life examples, and I'll use one now. In my not even childhood, in my teen years, like 14, 15 years old, me not knowing I was a highly sensitive kid my entire life, and not knowing what my needs were or how to make sense of what was going on. And I always, whenever I visit that time in my life, I always make it a point to, burn my guilt. That's a term I like to use. Burn the guilt, shed it, instead of, because what 14, 15-year-old me would have done was had I had her in my brain right now and she were looking back at herself, she would have been like, you were doing everything wrong. You didn't take care of yourself like the way that you should
Yeah.
have. You should have done blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And me, because I'm not her, I look back and I'm like, she did the best she could with what she had. And
Absolutely.
yeah, there
That's what we're all
was
doing, literally at
literally,
any given time.
I was like, yeah, you said bad decisions. I'm like, yeah, I definitely made a couple of bad decisions. I definitely self-isolated when I needed my friends. I muted myself instead of speak up when I needed something, when I needed help,
Yeah,
speaking up and asking for help when you need it, and instead punishing myself for even needing help in the first place. And like,
right.
clean up your mess,
Which they're
sis. Right?
right, which both of those have deeper roots, of course, because then it goes back to
Take
like,
me there. Take me
you
there.
know, um, okay, so let's n not using your voice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so you're a 14, 15-year-old that is not speaking her needs, and
Mm-hmm.
there's probably was a first occasion when you were much smaller, younger, lighter, shorter, that you
Yeah.
had a need that you did speak, and whatever may have been said to you, but the thing that was internalized was this need is wrong. I shouldn't have this need. They think I don't have this need. They're not fulfilling this need. Therefore, this need is wrong because they're my caretakers. They're supposed to be taking care of me. And if I
Mm-hmm.
have this need and they're like, no, then it must be me. And it must
Mm-hmm.
be this thing. Or you use your voice and you were told to be quiet. You know, you were shut down. And even in the nicest way, even in the even in the most polite way, a shutting down is still a shutting down.
I love
It's
that you said
still
that.
it's still an unmet need.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a small child who does, like in those years, we are looking for external validation because that's literally how we stay alive. We are looking to our caretakers. We need other people. We need those other people to, words not coming to me, to ensure our literal survival, you know?
Right.
So when those things happen the first times, we we can that connection that like, no, mom loves me. She takes care of me. That's what she's here to do. And I have this need and she's telling me no, basically. She's shutting me down. So then it's like, this doesn't make sense. How can I make this make sense? Oh, maybe, maybe she doesn't love me. Or maybe it's me, and then because there's multiple ways that can go, and that's a very unique process
Yes.
that happens inside of each one of us. But, but then let's say I'm not allowed to have needs
Mm-hmm.
is the belief that's there. So then 10 years later, you're having a need, but you don't even tell anyone. You don't speak your mind because you already have this assumption that no one's going to care.
Yeah.
And maybe you've had other experiences along the way, but there's always that first time. Because again, no baby was born ever thinking that their
Right.
needs are not. They are born thinking my needs are important, and there are people here that are going to satisfy my needs. Period.
Yes.
So
Yes.
whatever that thing is, um, it's something that happened. Um,
100%.
and there was something else that you said that triggered another piece, but I can't remember what it was now. So
That's okay. I look at all these. I'm getting all these pop-ups of the recording being like downloaded. I was like, okay, okay, okay. It's converting and saving, it's downloading. I don't know if that happened for you, but that was like super distracting for me just now. I was like, okay.
that's fine.
um, you mentioning that we're not born, with all of this, with all this weight on us, right? All these expectations. You mentioning that, we're not born this way. We're not born with something had to have happened, like at least once, that one instance we can follow the path to the one event. It made me think of, and I heard this, and I'm trying to remember who said it. Maybe I'll remember by the time this podcast episode goes up. But I heard someone make this, the way that they phrased this is really good and very similar to what you're saying. They said, in the first, like, I want to say 6-7 years of our life, we've got life figured out, right? We are curious, we are learning, like we're educating ourselves at our own pace, self-mastery, that's what that is. Learning new things at our own pace, asking the questions, and we know how to play, which is super crucial. Like just the act of playing and being super expressive with our needs, right? There is none of the noise, right? There is none of the conditioning, especially, before 4 years old. Like we're saying all the things, we're letting everyone know everything. And after those 7 years, it's just us learning as we get older to get back to that point, to get back there. And I thought, oh my God, that is so hilarious and so true. I'm trying to learn how to play again. That's another thing.
Right.
Like, how do I play?
Well, because it was conditioned and programmed out of us, right? Like
yes,
there was because adults come into children's lives with their agendas and we need to be this place, we have an appointment here, we need to go here, we don't have time for that now, we don't have time, oh look at the mess you made, with and these are all like, again, they're not good, bad, right, or wrong. These are things that are they just happen. It's a part of our life now. And but when I watch her play, my daughter, when I watch her play, and she is immersed, she is fully present, she is mindful, she is in the here and the now, she is not thinking about the next minute, much less the next day, much less next week, next year. She's not thinking about, an appointment that she has. She's not thinking about, replaying a conversation from yesterday. That's not there. That's not there. These are all things that like we learn along the way. And that doesn't, it doesn't mean that like we can't function in society either. And that but there's a limit to it too, because I think society in general, like, because like the busyness and the hustle and the that's all like learned coping mechanisms basically to distract us from our true nature of being, because we've been conditioned to view just being as doing nothing and as lazy and as unproductive and not worth it, and what are you doing, and this is a waste of time. And I can tell you that when she's playing, she does not view that as a waste of time, and that is something that I have consciously not put on her. Because I also view it as not a waste of time. That is her work right now. That is her purpose right now, to play and to explore. I don't earlier when she interrupted us, she was telling me that she had taken a spray bottle, filled it up with soapy water, and was giving the cat a bath.
Oh man.
And I wasn't like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Like, that's not how we bathe cats. No, I was like, what soap did you use? Because I'm like, did we just poison the cat?
Right.
soap did you use? Are we going to actually need to give the cat a bath later? Because you know, I was
Right.
trying to extract like those key information out of it of how to respond to the situation
Oh
and
God.
not like, oh my, what were you thinking? And I'm gonna have to hide that spray bottle, aren't I? And like none of that, because she's just exploring
Yeah.
and playing, and that's how we learn. That's
Yeah.
how humans actually learn.
Like literally, and it's become this as we get older, it's this, it's almost like well, no, yeah, you said it perfectly. We're just taught that that's the lazy work, right? That's you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. You're not a productive member of society when you're playing,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah. I mean, even, we're one of the slightly less than true things that parents have been told is how important the early years are for education in
mhm.
terms of letters and numbers and literacy and giving your kids the advantage as they move through their academic career.
I'll throw up.
And
I'll throw up. I'll literally vomit.
and while that's kind of true, it's more so that those early years are absolutely crucial for their emotional development and their physical development, that they develop through movement and play and trying things out and experiencing things in a natural way and learning through natural consequences. Like if you have two 3-year-olds that are playing and there's no malintent, but if like one of them, like hits the other or something, and then the other one starts to cry, usually the one that hit is like concerned, like I did that, and then they learn naturally, like, oh, I don't want to make her cry. So I'm like,
Right.
I've learned that, like, kind of, it's similar to like you can tell a kid or anybody, you can tell someone like that stove is hot, don't touch it. That stove is hot, don't touch it. That stove is hot, don't touch it. We can try to teach these things without the experienced part. And we would have to say it 20 times before it
Yeah.
actually sunk in. But if a kid touches a hot stove, that is the one and only time that they will do that because they have experienced the natural consequence of that.
That is so key. That is so important.
Yeah.
All that
So
stuff
we,
in the books. Yeah. I was gonna say the whole getting ahead educationally and with the
right.
textbooks, they're gonna spend the next 18 years of their lives learning, reading, all that stuff. I mean, if you put them in public school or whatever, but
Right.
no one teaches that we don't learn about our emotional needs in school. We seldom do.
No.
We
Yeah.
seldom do.
I think that, you know, I think they're doing a better job these days,
Progress is
but
progress.
it's still, yeah. Um, they've shipped some languages around, some words that they use, but a lot of what I see is still very similar. So, um, but anyway, I am not an educator and I do not work in schools or any of that stuff.
Yeah, but
So,
speaking of, you know, just our needs as children and
yeah,
the natural, oh, first of all, I love how you phrase that. Just learning from experience means that we're learning from the natural consequences of
yeah,
the things, right? Like what happens when we do A, B, or C. Um, it's interesting applying that to the the lens of highly sensitive children.
Mm.
because with highly sensitive children, there is a lot of, well, you know, how do I word this? With highly sensitive children, the example that you mentioned with, you know, no one knows, you just explaining how no one knows your needs better than you do at the time, right? At
Yeah.
any given time, um, when you're a highly sensitive child, being hyper aware of your environment and hyper aware of yourself, that's very uncomfortable um, for children. And of course, a lot of the needs when expressed, um, it's up to your upbringing and you know you have no control over whether those needs are validated or
Yes,
met
absolutely.
or thrown to the side. And because that kind of carries, and again, talking about how we can trail all of it to one event. When it keeps happening, and I guess it feels very complicated when you are like 7 years old and super uh self-aware, when like I just, again, and I'll bring up personal experience, even though speaking to other highly sensitive women, we have a lot of the women that I've spoken to have connected with me on this one experience of being almost, I want to say, exhausted by our self-awareness, exhausted
Yeah.
by the thoughts in our head at a young age, that young, and then speaking to non highly sensitive people and understanding that, oh, that's not normal, quote unquote normal,
Yeah.
right? It's not their experience. Um, I When you don't know that you're highly sensitive, that just continues. It's something that you either navigate or you cope with, right? You understand it, or you're just kind of coping with the natural consequences of that thing that you can't control. You can't control how self-aware you naturally are.
Right. You don't
Um,
even know that it's different. You just know that that's
no,
what you're experiencing.
exactly. And then it's it's just interesting because I want to talk about um, everyone's experience is so different, and as highly sensitive children, because I'm most familiar with that experience, that um, how me as a highly sensitive person operates in this world. Um, the process of the inner work and inner child work and shadow work, all of it has been very um, it's blatant how my needs were different from the kids around me. And I don't know, there is something that you mentioned a couple of times to me already that I find really interesting, because I mean, I just, I talk about shadow work in that our shadow self and the our inner child are two different concepts, right? Like, yes, if I were to explain the shadow self in my own words, like, and you can totally weigh in on this and add and
Yeah.
subtract where you see you fit. Um, but the way that I word this is our inner child, the neglected, the wounds of our inner child, the
Yeah.
neglected needs of our inner child. Um, those are needs that are cast off into the shadows. But as we age, when it comes to shadow work and the inner child, the way that I see that they're different, the way that I try to explain to my clients that they're different, is that, you know, your inner child is knows your needs, knows your inner joys, your past joys. Um, they're a great reference point. They know a lot about you, a lot of core things about you, and
Yeah.
are a lot of the core things about you. And any and all of the things that they have then been taught are not okay about themselves. Whatever was acceptable, whatever wasn't, it gets cast to the shadows, and that shadow self ages
Yeah.
alongside us, because every year, right, as we grow, as we become different people, it's almost like we're learning different things, that we're learning more things about ourselves, and that it feels like it always includes learning all the things that are not acceptable of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so our shadow self kind of just ages with us.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the archetype of the inner child, and versus children, which I thought was
Yeah.
super interesting, and
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, that was so easy to understand. So I'd love for you to explain that
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah. So thank you for that discussion on, inner child versus the shadow work, because I haven't heard it explained like
Mm,
that, but it makes total sense and it all kind of plays together here. Yeah, I am not of the belief that there is one inner child. I am of the belief that you have many inner children that are with you, like that, the way that our brain processes experiences and memory and stuff like that. um we get, like, all of that information is still there, and all of that information happened to a version of you. And if our brain has flagged those things as important for either good reasons or bad reasons, um, whatever the processing that we have no control over, right?
right.
Especially as children, that we have no control over, that those things are still there, and that they are attached to a version of ourselves, and that those versions of ourselves are all still here and all still accessed through our memory banks, our subconscious mind, our somatic body, and things like that. So I refer to all of that as our inner children, because we can visit with our 14-year-old self. We can visit with our 9-year-old self. We can visit with our 3-year-old self, like all of and there's multiple 3-year-olds in there for each individual occasion. Um, but with the shadow aspect of that, of absolutely, that each of those versions of you in those moments, um, they they did take on a shadow, of the this isn't okay, about, like, this thing about me isn't okay, and learning that, and then carrying that with them.
Yeah.
um or, like, again, a lot of the things that I work with are common things. So, um like, being a 4-year-old and playing with your toys, or getting into a plant or something, like making a mess,
Yeah.
and the adult walks in and they're like, look at this mess. Like, I can't believe you made this. You should know better. You should have known. Like, I've got to clean this up now. And excuse me, the message is that the child can walk away from that, because they were just playing. They didn't know that they were making a mess. They didn't know that, dirt is really hard to clean up. They didn't know, like, that a certain marker will stain things. Like, they don't know those things, right? So, um, but an adult walking into the situation, like, the child can walk away and be like, I'm a burden. I made a mess, and that made mom not love me. That made, child can learn. Like, none of these are absolute, because I also don't want to scare all the parents that may be listening, of thinking, like,
Mm.
shit, I'm effing up my kids, right? Because this is where it comes into, like, just the parent being conscious and aware of it. And, like, there have been times where I have reacted like that, and then, like, I know, like, I'm reactive right now. I calm myself down, and then I, like, revisit the situation. I apologize for my reaction. Like we worked like this is why mommy reacted this way, and like but this was okay, and like working through it with the child so that they have more information to make the decision of what just happened. But so in the making the mess situation, the child can walk away with, I'm a burden. I made a mess. When I make messes, I should hide them because someone's going to get mad at me. Um, I shouldn't be doing that. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm a bad kid. And those things then, move on into that shadow that was created, then moves
Yeah.
along to the 5-year-old child that probably makes another mess or something along the
Mm.
lines, right? Or maybe they break something by accident, or even on purpose. And, like, oh, I can't believe you did that. You should have known. You're too big for this now. Look at this mess you made. And that shadow, gets bigger. And,
Yeah.
but like not, and that continues. But the neurological side of that is that when we have the first experience, our brain like literally connects to neurons and there is a synapse that is created. And every time that same thing occurs or similar, or it activates those same parts of our brain, that synapse gets stronger and stronger and stronger until we are a 30-year-old woman that like at her core believes there is something bad and wrong with her,
Right.
and all the ways that that can manifest in all the different areas of our life, and that she may not even know that that's in there and that the shadow is behind her.
Yeah. I love the way you just painted that picture of the neurons creating a synapse, right?
Mhm.
And it getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like that's it's almost you can feel that, and or at least I understood that from an emotional uh, point of view. It's like, yeah, you have that's what that confirmation is. It's like
Yeah,
validating that experience everything over and over and over until it is just true.
yeah,
And most of the time it's just a it shows up all the time in our narrative as this cognitive distortion. It's like this is a warped reality that has just been confirmed for us over and over and over.
yes. And
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 yeah,
so it's going back to that, the place where it started, and looking at it with your grown adult eyes and feelings and emotions and perspectives, um, to kind of undo it, to undo that knot, to pull that root out, to uproot the seed, all the metaphors here. But because you mentioned earlier that like when we're children, we don't get to control stuff.
yeah,
We didn't, there are arguments out there, but we don't get to control who our parents are. We don't get to control who our
mhm,
siblings are. We don't get to control where we were born, in what type of family we were born. We don't get to control our skin color. We don't get to control our socioeconomic status, what our parents do for work, how much money we have, what type of house we live in, what type of things that our parents view as valuable and worthy. That then we are, that's placed onto us. Like we don't, all of these things and much more, like what type of school we go to, and like, I mean, any and all of the things. There's so much that we don't get to control that has an immense impact on us. But when we are adults, there are so much more things that we can control.
yes,
We do get to control where we live. We do get to
mhm,
control who we allow in our life. We do get to control how we show up, and all of these other aspects that were not available to us as children. So it is a going back to these things, that other parts of you with your mature grown up adult eyes, and looking at it differently and changing the meaning that that event had for you. And, I view it as, or one of my metaphors that I use is kind of like a building. So if there was something that happened or didn't happen in your early years and you've got this like hole in the foundation and you've built a life on top of that, um, and maybe pieces have fallen off and you put them back up. But if you can go back to where the thing happened in the first place and make that foundation whole, then all those other problems and all those other examples that reinforced that idea, they loosen and they lighten, and over time they just disappear or become so much lighter that it's not a huge impact in your now life.
That was beautifully said.
Thank you.
My goodness. That makes me think of the tower moment in a tarot reading of like there's this pillar in your foundation that no longer serves you. It has to come crumbling down for you to
Yeah.
rebuild. And it's like, yeah, that's we're only the building is only as good as its foundation. We can go in there, we can strengthen it and rebuild and tear
Yeah.
down what's old and weak and withering away, and anytime we
Yeah.
want. We have
Yeah,
that
we
power
can.
now.
We can.
I love that so much. What do you feel is the best approach to doing that work, to approaching our inner child?
So one approach to doing this work, and there are many different ways, but an aspect of time, we do have one approach, and it's actually a recording that I created. It's a visual journey to your inner child. It's like a guided meditation. I have it for free on my website right now. You can go to ashleyhutt.com/inner child wisdom, and it's a free download. Not even a download. It'll play right after you go through the process, and it's 30 minutes, and it's a really gentle journey that will get you in touch with one of your inner children to give you wisdom around something in your life right now. And these are all things that the recording will guide you through. So if you're interested in like, WTF are they even talking about, like, go go do that, and it'll give you a little taste of the process, and just what's available to you. And there's so much more beyond that. And inner child work is something that I talk about a lot right now on my Instagram, which is at I am Ashley Hutt, on Instagram. So if you want to know more, you can follow me there. I'm doing daily inner child trainings right now. So yeah, but there's so many different ways, from really deep and intensive, to just being mindful and self-aware, and choosing to journal through something or sit in meditation with one of your inner children, to have a mental energetic dialogue with them of stuff like that. So there's many different ways.
Actually, I'm so happy that you were on. This was a gift, and honestly, I feel like our conversation was short. And that's just me. That's my
Yeah,
toxic trait.
it totally feels like we've been talking for maybe 5 minutes.
I know. We have not. We have. Oh my gosh, we have been talking
We
since
have
two
not.
o'clock.
Right.
It's 5. So I did love it. I love it. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.
No,
I
thank you for
appreciate
having me.
it. It's so good.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being an open space for me to talk about this stuff that I am absolutely fascinated with and super passionate about. And I know that is this whole universe of lived experiences that exists inside of each one of us, and how it has just shaped and formed who that person is and the type of life that they lead, and all of those pieces of it is just wildly fascinating to me, and and I believe truly beneficial to anyone who chooses to walk down those their own paths of uncovering why they are the way they are, and seeking to understand themselves, and to in efforts to transform and evolve into the best version of themselves, or
Beautifully
returning to
said.
that, really, because like you said, the shadow, all of that shadowy stuff is stuff that we learn because we were perfect when we were born, and we still are, but it is
Yeah,
throwing off all that other stuff that we've learned along the way.
beautifully said. That's perfect. Oh man. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And guys, it's time to fangirl over on Ashley's platforms. Definitely get the recording, the free recording. I'll have that linked in the show notes. You can snag that as you're listening. Um, Again, Ashley, thank you so much. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure, and I can't wait to have future conversations with you because I always want to pick your brain about these things.
Yeah, I would love to. Always open. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.